So, we'll talk today about a couple of things. First of all, growth hormone, prolactin, and about thyroid, generally speaking. So, here we are talking about growth hormone. So, first, what is the regulation of the growth hormone and what is it? So, regulation of growth hormone is like most of the hormones done by the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. So, nearly everywhere, the general schematic is the same. Yes, we have the hypothalamus that releases the GnRH, so the growth hormone releasing hormone. Then this growth hormone releasing hormone is acting on the pituitary gland to release the growth hormone. As usual, the hormones that are released from the pituitary, from the anterior part of the pituitary, are not acting by themselves. Yes, they are activating something in order to provide effect, generally some effect. This case is the same. So growth hormones is released into the bloodstream and then gets to the liver. In the liver, after the liver is stimulated by the growth hormone, the insulin growth factors are produced and somatomedins also. Those substances then would reach to all of the body and would activate some proliferation. Also, growth hormone would increase the glucose levels. So these are two main things. So it would activate the anabolism, yes, anabolism, and so anabolism is generally increased production of new proteins, of extracellular matrix, of everything, bone elongation, things like that, and also it would increase the glucose levels. Why this glucose levels is important? Because the other mechanism that is controlling the amount of growth hormone that is produced is the glucose. So when the glucose drops, the growth hormone levels is increasing. Yep, this is a general idea. But of course the growth hormone, as the name suggests, is mainly about growing, not only. Okay, wait a moment. Oh, this is similar. However, here we are also showing something. Generally, in case of the negative feedback loops, because as always we have some negative feedback loops. Here we have long negative feedback loops and short negative feedback loops. Generally, growth hormone inhibits its own secretion via short loop. So growth hormones are produced and then they're immediately inhibiting pituitary from producing more of the growth hormone. So it's short, very short loop, very fast. Also, the insulin growth factor would act both on the pituitary and on the hypothalamus to stop GnRH and growth hormone. So growth hormone is stopped by itself and by the insulin growth factor. One more time, and insulin growth factor is this substance, this hormone, that is produced from the liver when the liver is activated by the growth hormone. Yeah. So one more time. Yes, we have the pituitary growth hormone acts on the liver, somatomedins, insulin growth factors generally, and it acts increase organ size, increase linear growth. In case, this is important, the increased linear growth of the bones are only possible when you are young, only because the metaphysis fused. After the metaphysis fused, the increased linear growth of long bones is impossible. We'll get to this in a moment. Also, increased lean body mass, decreased adiposity. We need to get energy from somewhere to grow, generally speaking. And this is how it looks when there is increased production of the growth hormone in the adult person, so in the person that would not grow. If we would have excessive amount of growth hormone in a person that is young, before the bone metaphysis fused, there would be a gigantism, so very, very high people. In case of the adult people that already are past the years that their bones fused, their long bones cannot grow. Yes, my bones cannot grow any longer than they are already. But some short bones, yes, like bones in the face, feet, hands, can grow and they become bigger. The internal organs like liver, spleen, and other things would get bigger. Also, as I told you before, the growth hormone is increasing the glucose levels, so it also can lead to diabetes when we have too much of the growth hormone. Okay, prolactin. Prolactin, you need to think mainly about the prolactin as a hormone that is regulating the lactation, so production of milk in women. Of course, it's not the only function of it, but this is the main function. So, as usually, it is controlled by the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. What is activating it? It's mainly activating by the reflexes from the nipples. Yes, so suction of milk will activate the prolactin production. It's also partially controlled by the sex hormones like the estrogens. Generally, what would inhibit the production of the prolactin? Mainly dopamine. Dopamine acts as an inhibitor of production of the dopamine. The increased prolactin levels can also be present in case of the stress. So there is something called functional hyperprolactinemia that will lead to the similar effects. Yes? So some women that are living in highly stressful situations can have this condition. And oh, wait a moment, I will move it. Okay, like this. So as you can see, TRH is also acting on the pituitary. TRH is not only activating production of the TSH, but also the prolactin. Yes, and then prolactin is acting on the hypothalamus to produce dopamine to stop. So we have, as usual, the negative feedback loop. And we have the breast development and lactation as the main things that are here. Okay, thyroid. Thyroid is a small organ on the anterior of our neck, above the below the thyroid cartilage. At least most of this organ is below the thyroid cartilage. In the anterior generally. What is the function of the thyroid? Generally, the function of the thyroid is production of the thyroid hormones. Simple like that. So inside the thyroid we have a lot of follicles that stores huge amounts of the hormones. Yes, it can last for months without any new production. So we have really, really a lot of them. How it is controlled? The control is usual. We already talked about this, so I will get very fast through this. So the hypothalamus is producing the TRH, then the TRH is activating the pituitary gland to produce TSH, and then TSH is activating the thyroid to produce FT3 and FT4, and then this will act on the pituitary to stop production of the TSH. And we already talked about this, so I suppose it's enough. What do we need in order to produce the thyroid hormones? In order to produce the thyroid hormones, we need mainly the iodine and TSH. So without iodine or without TSH, we are not able to produce new hormones. Without iodine, we are able for a couple months to release hormones because, as I pointed out before, in the follicles we have quite a lot of quite big storages of the ready hormones and of iodine. But still, we need iodine and we need TSH to produce the hormones. The iodine hormones generally acts on nearly every cell in the body, increasing its metabolism. So there will be more mitochondria, more respiratory enzymes, bigger oxygen consumption, and so on. When you would find a person with the hyperthyroidism, there would be nervousness, perspiration. Such person would always feel that it's hot, shortness of breath, would be activated. Generally, the person that is activated, yes, always hot. Usually, they would lose weight. Not always, but quite frequently, they would lose weight, increase their appetite. Always hot. We are generally rounding up about the same concept, that the metabolism, that the rate of how fast they're burning everything is increased. Yeah, so rapid pulse, warm moist palms, and things like that. Also, sometimes there may be in exophthalmos and goiter, but not in all cases, because it depends on exactly what disease do we have. Okay, and it's enough.